Hello, future grammar nerds. Today we're going to talk about the apostrophe. The apostrophe is sometimes considered a punctuation mark, right? It's up in the air like that, like a comma in the air. But it's really can be considered a part of the spelling of a word. So you use the apostrophe to form contractions. For example, if you're talking especially, or if you're writing dialogue for your characters, it might sound unnatural if they actually said, we would like to go for dinner. So you might say, we'd love to go for dinner. So you can shorten things like that. You can shorten should have to should have. Okay? Sometimes the fact that we say that in speaking leads us to write some funny things, though. So, for example, I've seen people who've written should have. As well, it's not always totally clear, because we would is we'd, but we had is also we'd. So essentially, as far as contractions go, you shouldn't use them if you're doing professional or academic writing that's more formal, because they're less clear and they're less formal, right? So the second use for the apostrophe is possessives, and that is where I see more of the mistakes. Possessives are when things belong to someone or belong to something. So a good trick for possessives, if you want to say that something belongs to the boy or the boys, you should just write the word or write it in plural if it's plural. And then if you want to make it possessive, what belongs to the boy? How about the bike? Okay. So the boy's bike, you just add apostrophe S after the word. If there's many boys, and for their sake I hope they have many bikes, then you just add apostrophe S after the word, but you say, wait, there's two S's here, so just get rid of the second S and keep the apostrophe. All right? That will save you trouble with other words like Heather. So Heather has a book. We just write Heather, then we add apostrophe S. There are not two S's, so we're good. And some words, for example, they don't have an S for the plural. So you could say the child's, so the child's book, or the plural would be the children. So the children's book, or books. Think about how many you need to have to go with that. Right? So here's something that you might not know about possessives. So if you have a name like my name with my last name, it's not a plural, but it does end in S. Right? So if you want to make it possessive and say that I have a lot of books, then you're going to say Heather Davis's books. Even though you have an S apostrophe and another S, in this case it's correct because the first S is not making something a plural. If it were making something a plural, then like the cars, right? The cars spot, then you would just have apostrophe and not another S. The reason for that is that we can hear the second S. So I say Heather Davis's books, but we wouldn't say the Cars's spot. right? So if you can hear it when you say it, then you can put an apostrophe S. So it can often be names, like for example, keeping up with the Joneses. Well, because if the Jones are your neighbor, then the Joneses swimming pool. And sometimes a word that's not a name, like boss. It ends in S, but it's just one boss, right? So the possessive would be bosses, the boss's house. Okay? So you can hear it when you say it. We don't say the boss house. We say the boss's house. So if you can hear the second S, then you can write the second S. If you don't hear it, then just the apostrophe. So just to clarify, we have the boss's house. This is just one boss, the boss's house. What if you had many bosses? How would that apostrophe change? If you had many, you could still say the, but you would write the word in its plural form, the boss's house. I hope your many bosses don't all live together, so I'm going to go for houses. So the bosses, so apostrophe S, but you see that you have the two S's, and you're not going to say the boss's house. So it's going to sound just like the one above. You can take off that S and just keep the apostrophe. So the boss's house, one. The boss's houses, many bosses. The last point is just to mention a common mistake. You have possessive pronouns, they don't get apostrophes, even though they show ownership. So his, her, theirs, and most importantly, its. All right? So when you're showing ownership, you would only use its if something belongs to a thing. So this is my pen's lid. This is its lid. So don't get it mixed up with the one with the apostrophe, which actually means it is. So this one is a contraction for it is. This one is the possessive pronoun. So later, grammar nerds.